Welcome, everyone, to this lecture sponsored by the Institute of World Politics. For those of you who are new, IWP is a graduate school of national security, intelligence, and international affairs. We offer a doctoral program, 7 master's degree programs, including 2 online MAs, and 18 certificates of graduate study. If you are interested in learning more about us, please feel free to speak to one of our staff at the conclusion of this event or visit iwp.edu. We would like to thank all of our supporters who make IWP events programs possible, especially Christopher Lay and Kimberly Zolan. To support the work of IWP, please visit iwp.edu/donate. This lecture is part of the IWP's China series, a series of lectures sponsored by the China-Asia program and managed by Dr. Amanda Wan. Today we will hear a lecture based on Xi Van Fleet's book, Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning. Xi Van Fleet describes herself as, quote, Chinese by birth, American by choice, survivor of Mao's cultural revolution, defender of liberty, unquote. She was born in China, lived through the Cultural Revolution, and was sent to work in the countryside at the age of 16. After Mao's death, she was able to go to college to study English and has lived in the United States since 1986. In 2021, she delivered a school board speech in Loudoun County, Virginia, against critical race theory, which went viral and ignited national conservative media attention. She now devotes her time and full-time energy to warning about the parallels between Mao's Cultural Revolution in China and what's unfolding in America today. Since going public with her message, Xi Van Fleet has appeared on Fox News, Newsmax, radio shows, and podcasts across the country. Mao's America, A Survivor's Story, tells the story of 2 cultural revolutions, one driven by Mao during her childhood and the one unfolding in today's America from the progressive left. With captivating personal stories and extensive historical research, Xi reveals the stunning similarities of these 2 revolutions. With that, please join me in welcoming Ms. Xi Van Fleet.
Thank you, Missy, and thank you for inviting me. This is unbelievable that I speak in a graduate school and in front of scholars and people wear suits and ties. I'm flattered, and I'm just very grateful that I have this opportunity. And I think a lot of you know my story a little bit, and you already summarized my experience in China. And so I just do a little bit of that too, and then I'll just talk about the topics. And what I'm going to talk about today are the 2 cultural revolutions. Okay, so what makes me the one that talk about these 2 cultural revolutions? I lived one through when I was in school, from 7 to 17, that's the 10 years of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. And I'm living through one right now, this time with all of you here in America. So I don't know, is this fortune or misfortune? But I consider this very unique that I get to experience 2 of the most important cultural revolutions in the history of mankind. Okay, so I was born into, I start to use this word often to make people realize that communism is slavery. So I was born into the slavery of communism. I had no choice. I was born into it. At the same time, my parents, they choose communism. Their generation chose communism. They thought they were going to build a brand new world. And we are now also, like my parents' generation, we are making a choice. Are we choosing communism or choosing freedom? People say, of course we're choosing freedom. But do you even know what communism is about? I think that is our challenge today. And the people who choose communism have no idea what communism is about. So I want to put it out there. So I experienced two, so I get to talk both of it. And so when I was in the first grade, Cultural Revolution started. It's 1966. Immediately, school closed. Why school closed? There's no COVID. Why school closed? Because the kids, as young as elementary school kids, ousted the principals, the teachers, and so did all the kids in middle school and college. They're all gone. Schools were closed. For me, it lasted for 2 years. For others, it lasted for 4 years. And when I was in school, Mao said, we're going to reform educational system. 12 years of education for our K through 12. What's the use of the extra education? There's no need. We need to put out the communist successor as soon as possible. 10 years is good enough. So he cut 2 years out of my education. I lost 2 years, and so I got 8 years. And did I learn anything from the 8 years? Nothing. It's just pure indoctrination. So that's summarized of my education or schooling in China. So school closed, and I was too little to participate. I can't really, it's just too young. So what did we do? Kids like me. So we just went on the street. Every day we went to the street and we just watched the Chinese Cultural Revolution unfold in front of us. We saw struggle sessions. We saw people put on parade, and we saw so-called debates on different sides, and we saw beating and eventually violence. Eventually we could not go to street, and it was no longer safe. And I will talk about what happened, the progress of the revolution. So eventually, I graduated from high school. I was 16. And so what the high school graduates here think about when they graduate, and think about the next step in your life stage, right? Education, job, whatever. There's none of that for us. The Cultural Revolution by then is 8 years, destroyed everything. So there's nothing for us. But Mao had good ideas. He said, we need to continue our education, but this time it's in the real classroom. This time you're going to go to the countryside and you're going to get your re-education from the peasants. And that's how you become real communists. So off we send to the countryside. And don't think about the countryside here. In America, it's all pretty, picturesque. Countryside means labor camp, pretty much. So I was sent to the countryside and work in the fields, and I did that for 3 years. After Mao died, after his successor got into power and reopened university, that was 1977. For the first time since Cultural Revolution, college were open to everyone. During the Cultural Revolution, it was only open to the DEI candidates. I use DEI, but of course we have a different name. The name is worker, peasant, soldier, college student. What does that mean? That means only for people who are politically qualified. So you don't have to have any education, academic success. You only need to be politically qualified, recommended by your party leader, mostly party member, and that's how they get to go to college. That's DEI. That's Mao's affirmative action. But then, 1977, Deng Xiaoping said, no more of that. And we're going to open to anyone who can pass the examination. So that's when I took that examination. After 8 years of not learning a thing, and 3 years in the countryside, I failed. I was just so miserable, and I described that in my book. And, but that was my only hope, only way to get out of the countryside then. So I went back to the city and took preparation classes with high school kids, and I was able to pass it in 1978. At the age of 19, I was finally able to go to college to study English. And by then, you know, I know what I wanted. I wanted to study English. I wanted so bad that one day I want to go out and see the world. So that was the turning point for me. So 4 years in college, learned very little. The English we learned is Chinglish. And the textbook we had were made by professors who probably never went abroad. Anyway, but I got a degree and I got a job. Not that I found a job, I was given a job. It's always the case. You never get to choose under communism. I was given a job. Not too bad. I was given a job teaching English to middle school teachers who need extra training. And there, one day, we started to, I think it must be 84-ish, we start to have American teachers come to campus. And most of them are volunteers during the summer. And there I met a wonderful lady from Kentucky. And we become friends. And she helped me eventually come to America. So 1986. My life totally changed. I got my visa. I was on my way to America. And I have been here ever since. And so quickly just summarize what happened after that. What happened? Nothing, right? I'm in America. Everything that I hated about communism, about totalitarianism, now is behind me. I have nothing to worry about. The freedom is there for me to enjoy. I will live happily ever after. That's what I thought. And that's a lot of people thought. And so I concentrated on reaching my American dream. Get more degrees, get a degree that can find me a job, get a good job, and then get married, and buying a house. You know, I did all that while paying no attention to what's going on in politics. To me, politics is just beyond me. And I voted every time, though. I know that it's important. That is a special privilege to vote. But I have no idea about the political issues. I will watch the debate. They all sound pretty good, really. I can't decide which one I support. That's why, right? Politics, this all sounds so good. Until later on, little by little, I start to see troubling signs. And the troubling signs started with political correctness. And I will talk about it a little later. And that you have to say a certain thing this way, not that way. And later get worse and worse. If you say something that they who were in control and don't like, you become a racist. And then eventually, I see that freedom speech in America is in danger. And then fast forward, 2020. By then, I said, this is no longer some troubling signs. This is a full-blown cultural revolution. And a lot of Americans just say, what happened to our country? What's going on? It's just everything is going mad. But people like me, people who lived through communism, who lived through Mao's Cultural Revolution, can see it right away. That's Cultural Revolution. Only this time, it's American Cultural Revolution. During that time, I saw a lot of posts on Chinese social media, WeChat. They were cheering, they were laughing. Finally, the Americans got their Cultural Revolution. We know because we've been there. Americans don't know because they're never taught. Why they were never taught? It is by design. That's that's how I think. That's how I firmly believe. This is hidden from them. They don't want Americans to know, because the people who do not want Americans to know want to play using the same playbook, and that's what's happening today. Okay, so 2020, I said, I no longer can just sit there and just be an observer. I got to do something. So I did. I joined a conservative group, and I went to school board. And then I delivered that less than 1 minute comment. We're only giving 1 minute. And so I said, oh, at least I did something. You know, I went there, and as a member, or as a resident of the county, I did something. I compared CRT as the Cultural Revolution that I lived through. And so I said, oh, I did something. I had no clue it went viral, 0 clue. And so immediately, the second day, I got phone calls. First of all, oh my God, you know, your speech is amazing, you know, whatever. And you compare this to Cultural Revolution. I said, well, doesn't everyone know? Well, I learned soon enough, nope, not everyone know. And so, and then eventually, you know, I started to be invited to different interviews and platforms, and I talk here 40 minutes, there 15 minutes, and it's not going to get it down. People would not be able to understand it. So in 2022, I finally made this decision. I quit my job. I have a pretty good job that allows me to work at home, and I'm thinking I can just work for a few more years. I can comfortably retire, but I just can't do that. I can't keep a job and write a book. And writing a book is something I never even entered my mind. But anyway, I made that decision. That was not a hard decision. I decided I'm going to, from that time on, work full-time for America, to save America. So it took me a year. I had no idea that I could do this. I have done this. It's something, I tell people it's God's will. I was guided every step of the way, from writing it, getting the manuscript down, and getting the publisher. There is a guiding hand every step of the way. So finally it came out last November. And for people who don't know, but I was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. And so check out that interview. And I'm expecting more interviews in the future. I have been interviewed pretty much every day, but Tucker Carlson, it's a big one. So I was very, 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 very grateful that I got so much positive feedback. And a lot of people in Twitter, if you can follow me, X Van Fleet, I tweet every day. And there people say, reading this book was like, wow. When you read my book, you cannot unsee what you see. This is history repeating. So that's a long introduction, actually. So today I want to talk about 2 cultural revolutions. But I want to start with Mao's Cultural Revolution. And so before Mao died, and in the interview with foreign guests, he said something kind of important. He said he had 2 major achievements in his lifetime, 2 revolutions. He carried out 2 revolutions. One is the revolution, the communist revolution, that they succeeded in taking over China in 1949. That is, I call it the classic Marxist revolution, using violence to overthrow a sitting government. What was the sitting government in China back then? The nationalist. So the communists successfully overthrew it and kicked it out of China, and now they have been in Taiwan ever since. So that was the kind of a revolution that took place in other parts, in other communist countries, such as Russia, such as Cuba, such as North Korea, Vietnam. Okay, so that was his one achievement. The second great achievement he believed that he made in his lifetime is launching the Chinese Cultural Revolution. That is a little different. Okay, let's find out what the Chinese Cultural Revolution is about. So we know the first one was overthrown a government, right? A sitting government. And you may be a little surprised. The second one, the Cultural Revolution, also had the same goal, to overthrow a sitting government. Guess what that government is? The CCP, his own government. Why would he do that? Why would he want to overthrow his own government? But keep that in mind. Both revolutions are about overthrowing a sitting government. So we have to go back a little bit further back. And that was 1959. And after they took over China in 1949, Mao launched one political campaign after another. Each campaign had millions of people dead. And each campaign brought untold suffering to people, to a different group of people. So in 1959, he launched this campaign called Great Leap Forward. Have you ever heard of, any of you? Yeah, Great Leap Forward. And what he wanted? He wanted to catch UK and United States in steel production in 10, 15 years, and later 8 years. And later, they said, probably we can do it in 2 years. Why can't we? We have 600 million Chinese at our disposal. We'll just make everyone come and make steel. And that's exactly what they did. Peasants, forget about farm work. Workers, city dwellers, kids, they all work on one thing, steel. How? They have homemade furnace set up everywhere, backyard. And so how do they get things to make steel? Well, they were told, go home, get anything like doorknob, wok, kitchen utensil, everything. Everything made of toys made of steel, throw it into a furnace. And they all came out junk. Okay, so that failed spectacularly. What also failed was the crops, because no one was attending them. Everyone was making steel. So what happened after that is the Great Famine. The Great Famine lasted for 3 years. Up to 50 million Chinese starved to death. I was born in 59, so I have no memory of it, but my parents told me their suffering. They survived. They were just hungry because city dwellers were guaranteed ration, even though the ration is very small. Who died? The peasants. Those always, that is the theme in Chinese CCP history. It's always the peasants. The peasants put the CCP in power. The CCP starved them to death. And what's going on today is the same thing. Who made the Chinese boom possible? The peasants, the cheap labor. And who are the poorest? The peasants. That is a reoccurring theme, the peasants. But anyway, 50 some million of them died. Some villages just all died out. No one is burying no one because it's just whoever survived had no strength. That was, I don't think it ever happened in the history of mankind, that the government were able to starve that many people to death. So that was a big deal, even for a dictator. 50 million people dead, it's a big deal. So the government or the CCP, they have to do some explanation, you know, and so eventually Mao was forced to take a back seat. And so his successor, also his president, he was the chairman of the party. The president of China, Liu Shaoqi, was put in charge to do what? To recover, economic recovery, to stop the famine. That's it. So that was 62. Can you imagine a dictator take a back seat? It won't work out well. So from 63 to 66, looked like a kind of quiet. Actually, the economy has recovered, and things seem to be kind of quiet. But Mao was busy. He was busy having a comeback. So 1966, he launched the Cultural Revolution. So what was his goal? He wanted his power back. He was disappointed by the whole party because the whole party seemed to be rallying around his now considered #1 political opponent, Liu Shaoqi. He was going to do something about it. Okay, so 1966, Cultural Revolution was launched. And so that was a win. And who were the target of his revolution? And so I already told you. It is the people in power. So this time, the enemy of the revolution is not some kind of a rich people, counter-revolutionary. This time, it's the CCP party, whoever in power. So in another word, Cultural Revolution is about seizing power. Seizing power from below. Last time he used the army, right? He used the army to overthrow the government. This time, he could not use the army to overthrow his own government. But he had a better army. That was tens of millions of indoctrinated students, the kids. Because it's not he want to overthrow those in power. It's the masses. It's the people. The people want to do that. And that's how always Mao did, is in the name of people. So the Red Guards were just told they are the ones to carry out Mao's vision. The vision is get rid of those people who want to take us back to capitalism. Everyone that those people in power was called capitalist roaders. Have you heard that, right? It sounds kind of silly, capitalist roaders, but that's probably the best translation. That means those people want to take us back to capitalism. And if you ask me, what is capitalism? I have no idea. I know it's bad. And that's what all this indoctrinate young people, that's all they knew is bad. They want to take us back to an evil system that all the proletarian, the working class will be the victim, will suffer from it. So that's how they got the young kids motivated. And in my book, I really have one chapter talking about the Red Guards, exactly how they were mobilized and then given power. Eventually, they carried out Mao's Cultural Revolution and took everyone out of power that Mao wanted. Okay, so in order to do that, Mao made the trouble to meet them in Tiananmen Square for 8 times. You probably saw some of the pictures of Mao in army uniform and waving at the Red Guards, and then the Red Guards going crazy down there with Mao's little red book, because Mao claimed that he was their commander-in-chief, Red Commander-in-Chief, and those kids were his Red Guards. That's how the Cultural Revolution started. So Cultural Revolution, just remember, Cultural Revolution was a youth revolution. And when I talk about this, I hope you can always think about what's going on in America today. So they were given the power, the kind of power that they could do nothing wrong. The kind of power is, as long as you have a band, army band, you can do anything. You can eventually kill without consequences. Cultural Revolution started in May 1966. It started with cancel culture. And in Chinese, it's called smashing of the four olds. Old culture, old ideas, old custom, and old habits. Anything old. Anything that is pre-communism, eventually anything pre-cultural revolution has to be dismantled. And what they do? Statues. They went after statues. They dismantle statues. I'm sorry, I do have a coughing problems. I have to drink water. And then change names. That is absolutely a movement. They examine everything, street names, institutional names, even personal names, and change them into something political correct. Do we see it here? Seeing the same thing here. And so they destroyed everything in the public, but that's not enough, because there are hidden four olds in people's homes. So they launched this, the greatest home looting campaign in the history of the world. They just went to people's homes and go through their stuff and take out what they think is old. Old vases, old furniture, old family photos, old manuscript, family correspondence. And they, in the process, of course, cash, gold, jewelry, everything was taken. And that is the biggest looting operation. And so, and I witnessed that. I witnessed near me. And it was an awful sight to see. The narrow streets, the streets is residential houses on both sides. Things were dragged out in the middle of the streets. Many things were broken. People were yelling. People were crying. And I know someone, okay, they found something. You don't even have anything to be raided. And a friend of mine told me that it happened to his family. They did not have anything old. And so the little kids in the neighborhood, elementary school kids, same thing. You have an armband, you have the power. So went into his house and did not find anything. So what did they do? They cut off her sister's hair and called it yin-yang head. One side cut, one side not. Just because they have the kind of power. That is the key. They were given the power. And so is the social justice warriors here. They were given the power. You say, where are the police? Well, I told you they're playing the same playbook. The police were not defunded. They were dismantled by Mao. So the criminal justice system was dismantled. So this is nothing but chaos. Eventually, violence descended. The first killing took place during the Cultural Revolution were not by men, were not by some kind of macho man, by girls, by young girls in one of the most prestigious middle school for girls in Beijing. Bunch of young girls from 12 to 16 got their principal out, beat her up, and tortured her, and killed her. And why? And I don't have time to explain everything. Why is because she belonged to the category that Mao condemned. They are called reactionary intellectual authority. The key word is authority, whoever in power. So after that, nothing happened to the girls. And then killing took place all over the country. In China, also just think about these kids. When they say, go after those in power, what they think first? Teachers and the principals. And I talk about family as well too. So that's why the violence took place first is in school. And the police were specifically told, do not go to campuses. And so during the Cultural Revolution, there was no principle, zero principle escaped the struggle session. Some, of course, killed. And have you seen or heard of the three-body problem? The Netflix, I'm not recommending watching the whole show. I don't have time for that. But make sure you go to YouTube and watch the 3 minutes beginning scene of that series. And that is a struggle session of professors by their students. And that happened all over China. Not everyone was beaten to death on the spot, but many were. Many were. And a lot of them were tortured. A friend of mine witnessed the principal in her middle school was struggled against by the middle school kids. They forced him to eat human feces on the stage. Okay, so that is the Chinese Cultural Revolution. And what happened in the end? 10 years. It lasted 10 years. Mao thought he was just like, we're just half a year. We can wrap it up, get those people down from power, and I put my people over there. Eventually, it went out of control, out of his control. So it started in 1966, and fighting and violence soon after. By 1968, it's all kind of like all the job is made job. The main task was accomplished. People were taken out of power. So the Red Guards started fighting each other. They thought, now it's time. It's time for us to share power. So they start to fight. The faction fight got so bad, it's almost like a civil war. And Mao was tired of them. Their job is done. Their usefulness was over. He used the army and suppressed them. And sent the rest to the countryside, to the gulags. And that's the end of the useful idiots. And few people know about those people who think they're on the right side of history and doing all this protests and whatever, and no problem. They are just useful idiots. By the end of the Cultural Revolution, 20 million people lost their lives. And the civilization of 2000 Chinese civilization destroyed. And economy ruined. And that is the end of the Cultural Revolution. There was any winner? Hardly. You can say Mao was the only winner because in the process, he became our god. He had the absolute power he desired. But as soon as he died, his widow was put on trial and sentenced to death. So there's no winner, seriously. It was a total destruction and death and suffering. And that's our example of what Cultural Revolution can bring to us. So I will just now move on to the other Cultural Revolution. And I mentioned a little bit that 2022, to me, is absolutely the watershed. It's no longer some kind of an infiltration here or there. It is a full-blown cultural revolution. What I saw in China pretty much all took place here. Burning, looting, destroy statues, changing names on the streets, changing street names and institution names, all these things. Cancel culture, all this happened. Violence as well. Violence, okay. But the question is, how did we get there? And a lot of people, today, Bill Ackman, I think is the guy, and he is a donor for the, I think he's donor for Harvard, and he got fed up. He's not going to. I just want to read his comment. He posted something today, and I responded to it. What has happened to America? Big question. When did our judges lose all their judgment? It's about judicial system. How is it that the left wing in doctrine, ideology have overtaken basic common sense and judgment? How did this happen? How did I not see this happening? Good question. Good question for a lot of people. How did we get here? And at least he saw what happened and questioned. Some still not questioning what happened. Let me just quickly run through this. How did it happen? So as I told you, I was one of those delusional people as well. You know, freedom. Once you fight and got it, it will always be there. I was one of those, and many people still think freedom in America, of course, it will always be there. Not so. And now we are at a blink of losing it. But communism has always been here. It's been here for a long time. So the first communist revolution succeeded in Russia. I think I'm running out of time, right? Kind of.
10 minutes.
Okay, I hurry up. 1917 in Russia, right? That's the first victory of communist revolution. Do you know when was communist USA founded? 1919, only 2 years after the Russian victory. When was CCP founded? CCP, Chinese Communist Party, 1921. So the communists, in a way, came here even before it went to China. So it has been here for a long time. And so not too long ago, I read this book, and I really highly recommend. It's called The Romance of Communism by Vivian Gornick. And that really helped me to understand what kind of communism that attracted the Americans back then. And I would say those are the, I call it the classic communists. And they were the working class in New York City, in the ghettos and whatever. They absolutely believed that there will be there will be a communist revolution at the corner to overthrow capitalism and in America. And because they saw Soviet Union as the shining city on the hill, and they believe that the same thing will happen here. They are communists, hardened communists. They have their communist meetings at home, and they are organizing. You know, they are working class. So, what happened? In 1956, news came from the Soviet Union after Stalin died that Khrushchev published the Cult of Personality and exposed the dark regime of Stalin. I think some of you probably know about it. They were like, what? I thought that was our dream, that we were going to build a society like that, but they turned out to be all delusional. Many, many people gave that up right there after mid-1950s. And after that, there's still a lot of communist organizations such as Black Panthers, such as Weather Underground. They were the one, they believe in violence to take down capitalism, to take down America. And were they a threat? Of course they were a threat to our freedom, to our society. But I tell you, violence will never take down America. They will not succeed in taking down America. So they actually learned it. So there's another group of people, they're smarter. They know how to take down America is not by violence, and it's by subversion. Those were the cultural Marxists. And you probably know better than I of the Frankfurt School. They came to America in the 1930s. And then they established themselves in the heart of American intellectual life, Columbia University. And there they started their activism. And there they started to collect students, followers, but took them a little while. It took them, 2 decades. Their chance finally came in the 60s and 70s. And then they launched, hope you're okay, you're coughing, I also cough. That is America's first cultural revolution. I don't know how many people make that connection. I did not until I started to research for my book. I thought, what? This is amazing. When China was having our cultural revolution, America was having your cultural revolution. Now it become my cultural revolution as well. The same time, even though it's different name, it's the same thing. What they do is they are going to destroy the past, destroy the foundation, destroy the people's faith. That is the American cultural revolution. And we know what happened. The Vietnam War ended. Everything seemed kind of quiet down. They did go extreme. And then the 80s. You are the expert of the 80s. What happened in the 80s is the Reagan Revolution, right? That's when I came here. So that's why I said America is great. I don't see any problems. If I came here in the 70s, I was, wow, the same thing's happening here. But of course, back then that is 80s is the Reagan Revolution. The conservatives was making some progress there, going forward to 90. That's when I started to notice things, even though little at a time. And what is that? Multiculturalism. That is a continuation of the Cultural Revolution. Multiculturalism sounds so good. I remember I was in college, and we were going to event, multicultural event. What you do there? Food, right? Oh, sounds so good. And people will wear their own costume, and it's all fun. It's all good. Why not multiculturalism? But I also noticed at the same time that when I came here, I want so badly to be American. I want to forget about all this indoctrination that I received in China. I want to be American. And I absolutely believe in melting pot. But it was that time they started to say, no, we don't want a melting pot. We want a salad bowl. We want people to be proud of their culture. And it all sounds really good. But now we know, looking back, now we know what it is. Multicultural includes every culture except American culture. Multicultural is a way to decenter American culture, to encourage tribalism. And also, multicultural really make people just don't want to be America. Don't want, and then eventually I noticed political correctness and what you can say and what's the correct way of saying things, and then they keep changing. And I use this example in most of my interviews because that just to me is stunning. In the early 90s, I took a class in special ed education. And then we just passed that bill, American Disabilities. I can't remember the name of the bill. So the professor said, we have to be really respectful to people with disability. You know, we have to use this word, not that. I remember you can't say blind. You have to see people with impaired vision, something like that. Okay, it's a little bit wordy, but okay, I do that because I want to be respectful, right? That keeps changing. And then later, you can't say people with impaired vision. You have to say something, people who are hard at seeing, whatever. It just keep changing until you know why. And you know what? Today, the correct way of calling people with impaired vision is what? Blind, back to blind. Why? You think it's just silly, it's a game? It's not a game. It's their way to control your speech. You have to say what they told you. And I don't know, heard about James Lindsay. And he's my friend and also is a conservative thinker. He says something I think is absolutely true. We share the same vocabulary or the dictionary, but they control the definition. They tell us what is the correct way of saying things. And going forward, and 2020, racial tension just escalated. And I could remember it. I work in my workplace, and then we have the identity politics is the thing that everyone wants to be part of it. Everyone wants to claim identity, okay? And racial identity, okay? And if you don't have racial identity, we have plenty of ways for you to get identity. And gender, women, they are oppressed, right? Men are oppressed. Okay, so now sexuality, and it just go on and on. Now everyone wanted to have identity. Why? And because when you have an identity, you become victim. And why you want to be a victim? When you have victim, you have power. And so that is how Mao played out, how Mao used to divide Chinese people, and why he wanted to divide people. When people are divided, it's easy to control. So I have to say, I have to go on. I can go on and on, but read my book, please, because I put everything there in more detail. So we are experiencing the same cultural revolution. The goal is the same. As I said, the goal is what? Is power. The goal is someone or group of people that want power. In order to have power, they have to destroy the past, destroy our foundation, destroy our shared value, so that they can take down this country, burn to the ground as Mao did, and build back, not better, but build back totalitarian. Thank you.
Questions. We have maybe 5 minutes or so to take a few questions. If we can ask you to just keep your questions very succinct and short and give Ms. Van Fleet time to answer.
Please state your name and affiliation.
Thank you very much for your talk. My name is Nathan. I'm an intern here. I'm an intern here at IWP. And I have my question, but I just want to say thank you so much for your talk. And I think you came from China. You came from the slavery of communism. You understand freedom much more. And I think sometimes we as Americans take our freedom for granted. So I just want to say that. But thank you so much. So my question would be just, you said like sort of there's the choice between freedom and communism, which is slavery. And you were talking about the Cultural Revolution, like the Red Guards and how these teenagers were hysterical and stuff. And my question is sort of like, why do people like, back then in China in the 60s and today as well with our our own cultural revolution, why do people deliberately like go that way, like the Red Guards? Like, why do they choose that slavery? Why do they choose that stuff? Like, why do they deliberately, like, what's the sort of, like, since you witnessed it, what's sort of like that psychology behind that?
Okay, I said my parents were the generation who chose communism. Red Guards, just like me, were born into it, and we were indoctrinated. And how we're indoctrinated? We were taught fake history. I think that's the main thing. How to indoctrinate people? The best thing is teach them fake history. So they don't know the past. Like I said, they said they are fighting against capitalism, but they have no idea what capitalism, I had no idea what capitalism was about. So they were fighting for, they thought they were fighting to save China from capitalism, but they were indoctrinated, they have no idea. And that's exactly what I see happening on campus today. They had really very little history. Knowledge of history. They definitely have no knowledge of communism and the Chinese Cultural Revolution. So they were just, they were just like the Red Guards. They were useful idiots. They were being used, and they will be dumped, just like Mao dumped the Red Guards. So Red Guards did not choose. They have no clue. They're just absolutely controlled by the party, by Mao. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because they were born after 1949.
And we have time just for 2 more questions. Sir, in the back, if you will give us just 1 second to get a microphone to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Piero Tozzi from the Congressional Executive Commission on China. You referenced the Frankfurt School and the cultural Marxists. It seems that many on the left today have internalize the dialectic, but don't necessarily understand the ideology behind it, especially the students. But what are sort of the intellectual influences or books or ideas that are motivating them, even if they do not understand it? And if you could maybe give some explanation of that.
The books that they read that kind of
that are influencing them. You referenced the Frankfurt School and the cultural Marxists. And
I would say it is, they may read something, but they don't have to read any Marxist books. It's everywhere. It's in the teachings, it's in the media. I say if you are a Marxist, you can talk about Marxism while you're talking about pizza. It is a world view. And it's not a program or a book that is responsible because they have so much time. From the 30s, now it's almost a century. It's little by little. Our American worldview has been changed, especially after 2020. My God, the words, the vocabulary that on our lips during the Cultural Revolution become American vocabulary. Oppressed, oppressor, liberation, that is a giveaway to it's communism. And then in Colombia, they call what? They call it People's University. Do you see that? I saw it on Twitter. People's. That's also a giveaway of communism. People's. What is China called? People's Republic of China. What is the People's? What is CCP's army? People's Liberation Army. This is insane, but nobody know. They don't know. How do they know? They never read real history. So I think it's so gradual, you cannot pin down to a book that influenced them. And so you can go to medical school thinking, I will never read a philosophy book. But in medical school, they are just as indoctrinated. They will look at their patients from like DEI perspective. They're going to help the oppressed. They'll put them first. So do you see what I mean? It is, that's why it's so hard to fight this war. And in public schools, they say, we don't teach CRT. They don't. There's no such a class in public school that's CRT, critical race theory. But they teach it through daily activities. You don't have to talk about politics or history. They teach that. And so we are in the battle of people's really, we have to change it back to the American traditional worldview.
They've internalized the dialectic without knowing where it comes from. Thank you.
No, they don't, yeah. I'm sorry.
We have time for one more question.
Actually, I want to answer a question no one asked. How about that? Okay, people said, okay, you call this Cultural Revolution Marxist. Okay, you say that it happened in China, whatever. But why it's not happening in China today? I think it's a good question. I was asked before, so I'll ask it for you. So Xi Jinping is not woke, right? Xi Jinping is not allowing all these crazy things in China. Can you figure out why? Okay, why Mao want to do that? Why Mao want to have the Cultural Revolution? He want power. He want power. He want to create the chaos in order to seize power. How about Xi Jinping? He has power. He has power. He would not allow the chaos. That is the difference. Why we have this chaos in America? Someone wants power. That is the reason. All this chaos, all this is woke, is for someone to create destruction and everything in order to get power. I think that will probably help people to understand a lot of things. Why here? Why in the West? It's not just in the United States. It's in the entire West. Because someone wants to destroy West. Because West really stands for freedom, stands for democracy. They want totalitarianism. If you want to ask another question, that's fine, but I think it's important.
Thank you, Samantha Tapia, Perspective student here. My question is, I'd like to bring up the component of foreign influence involved in the American situation. In China, I know originally there was the inspiration from the Soviet Union, but that changed in China over time. And then in China, that there was very much, as you talked about, the top-down indoctrination, whereas in the United States, we have a recognized issue of foreign influence and influence campaigns through the media. And so I'm wondering whether you've discussed that and whether you have ideas about how the U.S. government can engage to, I guess, moderate foreign influence that has the intention of stoking the left and the right and pitting them against each other, similar to how you talked about pitting people against each other during the revolution.
But you mean foreign influence, right? You're basically in terms of how do we stop the foreign influence come here to pit people against each other?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the market, I already explained, and then it's very easy for you to find out yourself. The cultural Marxism that we are experiencing here is homeborn, is absolutely American. And the Frank School is, they are the grandfather of American cultural Marxism. And now American elite high schools are the main exporter of woke ideology, of cultural Marxism to the rest of the world. Here, exporters here. Well, it's okay to look at the CCP. CCP, of course, they want to see chaos. They want to see they want to see that we experience all sorts of problems because they consider China, they consider America their arch enemy. But I would say, look inside. All this is from here. It's not some foreign influence want to do this. It is inside. I call it traitors within. Absolutely traitors within. Those people are here. And they are exporting this to the rest of the world. I don't know whether I answer your question. That's why I always say, people say, a fight against CCP. Yes, fine. But my goal is not to stop CCP. My goal is to stop cultural Marxism here. Only when we save America can we save the rest of the world, including China. Or we can talk more. Maybe I did not answer your question directly.
Thank you, Ms. Van Fleet. Would you join me in
Thank you so much.
I would like to thank Ms. Van Fleet and all of you who joined us today. For those interested in learning more about our courses at IWP and applying to study at IWP, please speak with one of our staff at the conclusion of today's event or visit us online at iwp.edu. If you would like to purchase a copy of Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning, additional copies of the book are on sale in the lobby. Thank you all so much for coming. And Ms. Van Fleet, we will escort you out to the lobby. Thank you again. Wonderful.
Thank you.